Welcome to Live Without a Car, the show where we talk about everything related to living a car-free life. My name is Amanda, and I have lived without a car for over a decade in Portland, Oregon. I'm also an economist and your host. Today, I want to talk about how much easier it is to go car-free in 2026 compared to 2009. As I mentioned in prior podcasts, I first began experimenting living without a car back while I was still living in Orlando in 2009. Back then, it was much more difficult, and that is a huge reason why it took me 7 years to accomplish my goal of not owning a car at all. So let's dive into 4 ways our world has changed in the last 17 years. Number 1, rideshare services like Uber and Lyft. It is easy to take these services for granted, but if you're old enough to recall, Uber didn't start operations until mid-2010 and did so with limited service in California. It didn't reach Orlando until summer 2014, 4 years later. Prior to this, if you needed a ride, you had to rely on friends, family, or taxi cabs. And few people need to be reminded how inconvenient it was to use taxis outside of New York City, major airports, or hotels. When rideshare came onto the scene, I began using it pretty quickly. I think I actually took my first ride the same year they launched in 2014. The great thing about rideshare is it fills in the gaps of transportation coverage. Uber today serves 15,000 cities, and I am hard-pressed to find people I know that have never used it before. In Portland, if I ever find myself in situations where transit won't cut it for a certain destination, I can easily rely on Uber regardless of the time of day. If you tried to live without a car in 2009, you faced a very different world than we do today. Number 2, smartphones. Smartphones existed back then, but they weren't yet the all-in-one transportation tool they have become. Back then, going car-free often meant carrying paper transit schedules, printing directions from your computer, and hoping you didn't miss your bus connection. If you got lost, you couldn't simply pull out your phone and get turn-by-turn directions. Ride-hailing services were not widely available, and bike share systems were rare. Many transit agencies also had limited mobile information. Today, however, a single smartphone can replace many of the functions that once made car ownership feel necessary. Apps show real-time bus and train arrivals, help you plan trips, summon a rideshare, unlock a shared bike or scooter, and navigate unfamiliar neighborhoods. Mobile payment systems mean you don't even need cash or a transit pass. In many ways, the smartphone has become the control center for car-free living. It reduces uncertainty, saves time, and makes transportation options easier to access. While living without a car still requires planning, technology has removed many of the barriers that existed just a decade ago. I honestly doubt that I would choose to not live without a car or choose to live without a car today if technology had not developed the way it did. Number 3, delivery services. Another major change since 2009 is the rise of delivery apps and services. Today, groceries, household essentials, pet supplies, medications, restaurant meals, furniture, and even cars, don't get me started on the irony of that, can be delivered directly to your door now more than ever before. During the pandemic, many retailers and restaurants could no longer ignore the revenue benefits of online shopping, and some downsized their physical locations in order to focus more on online sales. For people considering a car-free lifestyle, this removes one of the biggest concerns. How will I carry everything home? The answer is often that you don't have to. Instead of using a personal vehicle as a cargo tool, many people now use delivery services when they need to move larger or heavier items. While delivery fees should be considered as part of a budget, they are often far less expensive than the costs of owning, insuring, maintaining, and fueling a vehicle. As a result, delivery services have become another tool that makes living without a car more practical than ever before. And last but not least, number 4, remote work. One of the biggest reasons living without a car is more realistic today than it was a generation ago is remote work. For decades, commuting was one of the main reasons people felt they needed a car. If your job was 10, 20, or even 50 miles away, as my first full-time job was, driving often seemed like the only practical option, and it was. But remote work has changed that equation. When you work from home, your daily commute can shrink from miles to, well, nothing. That means fewer transportation trips, fewer scheduling headaches, and far less pressure to own a vehicle. Even people who work remotely only a few days a week can often replace many car trips with walking, biking, or public transit depending on where they live. As an economist, I like to think about incentives. Remote work reduces the need for daily travel, which makes the high cost of car ownership much harder to justify. For many people, working from home isn't just a workplace benefit, it's a transportation benefit. It creates flexibility, saves money, and opens the door to a car-free lifestyle that might have not been possible before. Now, I don't want to pretend that living without a car is easy everywhere. In many parts of the United States, infrastructure is still heavily car dependent, and it is actually not possible to live without a car. Transit systems vary dramatically in their service territories. A large amount of companies have called people back into the office full-time post-pandemic. Safety is also still a huge concern for bicyclists and pedestrians. And despite the reach of companies like Uber, not everyone in America has access to it. But compared to 2009, the number of tools available to help people reduce or eliminate car ownership has grown enormously. In the past, giving up a car felt permanent and risky. Now, many people experiment with going car light first. I know I did. They try 1 month, they bike 2 days a week, they downsize from 2 cars to 1. They test alternatives before making major decisions. Living without a car in 2026 is still imperfect, but compared to 2009, it is far more possible and far more normal than many people realize. Today, transportation is much more connected to technology. You can check exactly when your train arrives. You can rent an e-bike with your phone. You can order most things online and get them delivered. You can work remotely in many cases. Even if many companies chose to stop allowing it, it is still technically possible. Just want to put that out there. If you're interested in starting your car light journey, send me an email to livewithoutacar@gmail.com with a subject line guide, and I will send you a free one on how to get started with your research. Thanks for listening to Live Without a Car. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe and share with a friend. Until next time, walk slowly and enjoy the scenery. Ciao!